What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and it's Wednesday, so it's time for Fantasy Wednesdays. And, I kept thinking about who do I want to match up today? Fantasy Wednesdays, you take two fighters from two different eras and you match them together and see who wins. For those who don't know about Fantasy Wednesdays, I try to do it every week or every other week, And the first two guys came to mind were Miguel Cotto and Trinidad for some reason. You know what I mean? Because I always wanted to see who would win out of those fights. Because, you got two Puerto Rican legends from two different eras. And, and it's been brought up before, like who you think was better, Cotto or Trinidad. And if you had to match up to those two guys, they both got beat. But I think Trinidad did more with his career than Miguel Cotto. Miguel Cotto was a badass in his own right simply because of the injustice that happened to him. Yeah, he beat all type of guys. He beat Malignaggi, he beat Zab Judah, he beat Sugar Shane Mosley in a good drug out fight. But unfortunately, he lost to Margarito, and the way he lost to Margarito is subject to foul play, you know what I mean? Because, the next fight that Margarito was in, he fought Sugar Shane Mosley, and then, they found the plaster in his gloves and all that. So, to think that Cotto went through that type of punishment, because he took a beating in that fight, 11 rounds of beating, and he was winning that fight, I think, until those punches actually just started getting too heavy for him and started affecting him. And he couldn't take them no more just due to the style. Margarito was taller than him. You know what I mean? And I'm saying this for a reason, okay? Trinidad really didn't take too much punishment in the ring, maybe a couple fights. Bernard Hopkins gave him a tough fight. He was the first one to defeat Trinidad, legitimately, officially, right? Then, Winky Wright just outboxed him all night, and he lost to Roy Jones. So, those were the three losses that he had, whereas Cotto was beat by Margarito. We like to call him, because he cheated. He simply cheated. Margarito was one. Pacquiao was another. Mayweather was another. And Canelo was another. And he lost to, Saddam Ali for his last fight. So, take nothing away from these champions. They're both hookers, okay? Trinidad is about 3 inches taller, because he's like at 5'11". Miguel Cotto's at 5'8", so the height advantage belongs to Trinidad along with the reach advantage. I think overall boxing ability, I think Cotto takes Trinidad in boxing ability because, Cotto can box. The way Cotto pounces, back and forth and really up and down, that's a good and bad thing, but he is mobile. You know what I mean? He's able to, move around, get out of position, get off that line, go from left to right, and he's a good boxer. He does wing his hooks, but he is a hooker, just like Trinidad. Trinidad's a different type of hooker. Trinidad throws chopping left hooks. He kind of telegraphs it, then just he just releases it. And it reminds me of you guys that watch boxing that like video games and remember the video game Knockout Kings round 1. No, actually this was round 2, where they introduced the haymaker. The haymaker, you kind of wind it and then you just let it go. You throw all your force into one punch, which was awesome. It was a good feature. I wish they would make another one, right? I'm the only one that goes to Game Exchange and want to know, hey, when you're making another fight night, you know what I mean? Because Fight Night Champions was off the chain, and I'll play it seldomly here and there. But Trinidad had a left hook like that. And Cotto, he has more of a looping left hook, kind of like a Danny Garcia, another Puerto Rican fighter, the way he delivers it. But, I think if you match these guys up in their primes, let's say, because they both fought at 160, right? Or Cotto fought at a catch weight, but 154, because I think they were the best at 154, right? Both fighters. And it would be one hell of a fight to see. Because Cotto is the kind of guy, he likes to throw exchanges and, and he's a good boxer because he can punch you from angles and at a distance that you don't know, and he's closer than you think. And he'll get on the inside, then he bounces off his toes, so he's completely out of range by the time Trinidad has to be set to punch a lot of times. Trinidad can't fight going backwards. So that would be the question. Can Trinidad get to Cotto? And I think he could because he has the length, he has the reach, and he has the height. Because remember I mentioned Margarito. Margarito was probably a little taller than Trinidad, okay? But they both tall guys. They both have him in reach. And you're able to see over his shoulders. So, Cotto's, he's down like this. Here, the guys that's taller, he's able to look down, shoot a right uppercut or shoot the left uppercut. You know what I mean? And Cotto is bad about catching straight shots. And Trinidad will throw his right and his jab out, He'll throw his jab and his straight right out like a jab. So he was good at pinpointing that, So it looks like a good fight. But I think if it came down to the wire, Tito is just tougher than Cotto. For one, Cotto has thin skin. And Cotto's tough. Cotto's a tough guy. But let's face it, certain fighters, he does get hurt. He does get wobbled. Not saying Trinidad was never wobbled, because he was wobbled a couple times in the Bernard Hopkins fight, before getting, technically knocked out. He stopped the fight, actually. His dad stopped the fight. But he was useless after that, but, he got up, okay? If Cotto can stay inside of Trinidad, I think because they're both ball busters too. You can't forget that. So if they get in trouble, look for some below the belts. You know what I mean? Those guys, they get in trouble because that's what Fernando Vargas claimed when Trinidad hit him below the belt. When Trinidad dropped him, he started hitting him low because the very next punch that Trinidad threw was an uppercut to the balls. You know what I mean? So it was that experience factor in there, right? And, Cotto, he's known to do that also. So, they're both ball breakers. So you can see a lot of punches coming from, a lot of angles. They'll pull a Orlando Salido in there in a minute. You know what I'm saying? So, but I think for punch to punch, these guys hook. And I keep thinking about Vargas in Trinidad. How these guys were going for a hook, and Trinidad's hook caught Vargas first. And he dropped Vargas. And that punch, I think, took some life out of Vargas. Because I don't think he was the same. I think, the kind of punches that he took from Trinidad, and that was for 12 rounds, man. So I think Trinidad, if he hooks with Cotto, he might catch Cotto. Cotto likes to step to the side. He likes to, throw combination and in with the left hook, whereas Trinidad likes to launch in with the left hook because that's his go-to marquee punch. I don't know, man. If Cotto can stay inside, he should be okay. But Trinidad, he is relentless. So he does have a kind of mentality like Antonio Margarito. And that's the kind of guy that will beat Cotto. A guy that walks him down. Trinidad, I think, will walk down Cotto and catch Cotto with punches that, and I think Cotto punches hard, but I don't think Cotto could actually hurt Trinidad. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially at 154. He could probably drop him in the early rounds. He'll probably get a knockdown on him because of that left hook. And, if he maximizes and focuses on taking Trinidad out, he could take Trinidad out early. He could do that like he did Sergio Martinez, even though this was a Martinez that had no legs. However, he did pounce on him, right? But if he lets Trinidad get the 4, the 5, the 6 round, no, because Trinidad's going to get stronger and stronger, and he's going to show Mr. Cotto, what fighting will is. So I think it ultimately would go to Cotto with Trinidad late. Cotto early, Trinidad late. Okay. So, I don't know. You guys tell me about that. What you think about Trinidad, Cotto, fantasy matchup Wednesday. Please subscribe. And you guys been counterpunched. Peace.